Lobbing Scorchers has partnered with NordVPN because, let's be real, if you're watching those live soccer matches on less than legitimate streaming sites, you're putting your personal data at risk. NordVPN is offering Lobbing Scorchers listeners their Black Friday deal right now. You can get 72% off plus 3 months extra for free. NordVPN encrypts your connection, hides your IP address, and keeps your identity safe, so you can focus on the game without worrying about your pesky ISP monitoring you. Protect up to 10 devices, browse safely on public Wi-Fi, and avoid trouble with their Threat Protection Pro. It's the smartest way to watch your favorite matches securely. So check out the link in the description to get 72% off, 3 months free, and help support this show.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 76 of Lobbing Scorchers. This is Ari Liljenwall. Got producer Noah with me here in Los Angeles. I got Jeremiah Oshan with me, Sounder at Heart.
Our boss.
That's right.
And we are here tonight to bring you the last Seattle Sounders game coverage pod of
ever.
L pod. The last L pod of the season.
The last L pod of the 2024 season. The Seattle Sounders season is over after their 1-0 loss at the LA Galaxy at Dignity Health Sports Park. All three of us were there. We're in Los Angeles right now.
It'd be funny if one of us wasn't there. We're just like, I was just in LA. Just wanted to chill.
I was just coming to hang out.
We were all at the game. We saw it all go down. We're going to lay down a late night. It's 12:16 a.m. right now in the city of Los Angeles. We're going to lay down the L pod.
City of Angels, they call it.
City of Angels. We're going to have our whole normal show with our game review, with our agenda check. We're going to take your questions. And we're also going to have takes from the man himself, J.O. So it's going to be a bit of a, sad, somber show with it being the last one. But there's a lot to talk about, both, I think, from this game and about the season as a whole. And maybe not as much forward-looking stuff tonight. There'll be plenty of time for that. But we're going to lay it down for you one last time. Mm-hmm. Before we do all that, though, I did have to let you all know that Lobbing Scorchers is a part of the Sounder at Heart podcast network. If you want to get the best independent Seattle soccer coverage, consider supporting us by going to sounderatheart.com/LS, sounderatheart.com/LS. Scroll down to subscribe and support to get 30 days completely free. Every sign up through our link helps support and grow this show.
We have one new sub, Ari.
One new sub. Who do
we have
got?
one new sub.
Tell him Jeremiah sent you.
Sorry?
I said, tell him Jeremiah sent you.
Tell him Jeremiah sent you.
Right.
Thon Win, thank you so much for subscribing.
Hell yeah, Thon. Thank you. We really appreciate that. And
48.
You're our 48th. We love and appreciate all of our subs. And if you haven't done so yet, please sub to the Lobbing Scorchers YouTube. Lots of good stuff going on there. Noah actually made our live streaming debut after the game tonight, and it actually did not go.
It didn't flop
that bad. It didn't flop.
We didn't flop.
There was like 20-some people in there. We had people calling in. That is something that we are going to try and ramp up going into next season for sure. We've just been building the foundation of our YouTube presence. Now we're ready to go live. That's going to be fun. I think people have been asking us about that, and I think that's going to be a whole new element to Lobbing Scorchers. So looking forward to that in the future. All right, guys, you ready to lay down this L pod?
Let's do it.
Let's just lay down the L pod. Seattle Sounders, Western Conference Final at LA Galaxy, coming off like one of the best Sounders wins in a while at LAFC. They were really riding high. I think. We were talking about on the last show. We all knew that Seattle was the underdog in this game, but I think we liked their chances at getting the win in this game, and it really didn't pan out how I thought it would. But first, guys, let's do our lineup reaction because there was some stuff going on here that was out of the norm, I would say. We've been talking a lot, Noah, about who should start between Pedro de la Vega and Georgie Manungu, and it turned out they both started in this game. So that was one wrinkle. And then you had the Nathan start with the Ymar injury. So I guess let's, from each of you first, when you saw the lineup, what were your takes? Did it change any way that you thought of this game going into it?
Guest goes first, always.
It was what I thought it was going to be. It was pretty close to what we predicted on Sounder at Heart. I thought there was a chance that Nathan can start, but I thought there was a chance that John Bellman would start, but that was really the only question to me was who was going to start at center back. And it made sense to have Nathan. I think the main reason for that was you can put Jackson Reagan on his more comfortable. He's better on the left. It allows the offense to sort of run the way you have it planned. And Nathan was on the right. And I think that ultimately that was not a bad decision, I don't think.
No, before Noah gives your take, I would say, like, to be fair, Nathan played well, I think, in both of these games. And he certainly wasn't the reason that they lost this game. I thought he did well. So that actually worked out.
Yeah, and I'm sure he's kicking himself a little bit for, a missed and a little bit of a soft hospital ball pass to Roldan that kind of we'll touch on how that kind of played into it all later. But overall, like, we were talking about it last episode, who is this guy? Like, he kind of just balled out with
he made 2 starts this year.
Yeah.
Literally the first and last games of the season.
Yeah. And just like played basically lights out, in my opinion, next to Jackson Reagan, which was awesome. For me, Georgie and Pedro de la Vega starting was the perfect best of both worlds for us, because I was saying Georgie all day. Georgie start over Pedro de la Vega. And so the fact that they both did, like, sure.
I suppose if there was any debate to be had, it was maybe moving either Obed or Christian onto the right and then flashing Pedro or Georgie out on the left. I actually appreciate that Brian kind of stuck with what got him there. I think Christian and Obed were probably the Sounders' best players.
Yeah, I agree.
That double pivot has been great since they went back to it. So I think that is one takeaway that is relevant moving forward, is that, especially with Christian, like, long-term at this point in his career, I don't really think he's like a week-in, week-out starter at right mid. So moving him back, that might be I
think he's going to, my suspicion is he will be the starting 6 next year.
Which I like that. I like him in that position. All right. We're going to do the goal breakdown of the fateful goal, but I guess I just wanted to talk a little bit about the game itself first, because I thought it was interesting how it played out. It really did not play out how I would have thought or predicted going into the game. I think these conference finals or just one-off playoff games like this, sometimes there can be teams that are very potent offensively, and a one-off game like this can be cagier and more defensive, and that's really how it played out. But when I saw that taking shape, my thought, especially throughout all of the first half, was this type of game is playing into Seattle's hands. The Galaxy have been one of the most potent attacks in the league all year, and if you get them in a sort of cagey, more defensive game like that, I think that's what you want more than getting in a shootout with them.
Oh, for sure. I would totally agree with that. And the Sounders were sort of talking about how, you get into the 70th, 75th minute, and there was this sort of frustration that they were sensing was building up in the Galaxy. And I want to say, they must have overcooked, I don't know, 5 or 6 balls to peck into that channel.
Yeah.
And it was largely because they felt like the only way they were going to get him into space was to play it through or over Nuhu, who, let's remember, he is coming off some sort of mystery but apparently serious illness, and he
swine flu.
Right. He fully shut down Gabriel Peck.
Yeah, that's a good point, because really it didn't feel like the Galaxy ever got rolling like they normally do. And Peck in particular, I didn't think really...
He was quiet.
He was pretty quiet in the game. I thought Nuhu did a good job locking him down. And Ricky Puig and Paintsill, I think, were a little more effective, but Paintsill certainly not to the degree that he was for a lot of this season. And even Ricky Puig, like, he's always going to have his moments, but
it was really a moment, though.
Yeah, it was.
He had a couple of dribbles where he broke pressure.
Yeah,
but he was really only. I don't know. I don't remember him being dangerous more than really on the goal.
I thought in the first half there were a few sequences where the Galaxy were getting out and running like they normally would, and Seattle did get a little unbalanced, and there was a couple of good sequences for LA and a couple of good chances. But the thing is, I didn't think any of the chances or the better of the run of the play that they had in the first half was more prominent than when Seattle had the front foot and generated a couple good chances too. So I thought it was really pretty much even right until that goal. Like, I definitely don't think it was. There's some times where it's 0-0 in the 85th and you're like, one team is destroying the other.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be 0-0, but I did not think that was the game state for most of this game.
It did
at
not
all.
feel like a goal was coming.
Yeah,
No.
exactly.
Like the goal came out
Which-
of really, I thought, sort of nothing.
like a random moment
It
that
was-
was not
yeah.
part of like the broader game state.
Right, exactly.
You could tell the Galaxy were frustrated. Like, I even have it in my game notes. Like, Galaxy are very frustrated at the 50th minute mark. Like, when they came out of half and they had kind of like tweaked a little bit, but not. They're like, we're just gonna keep grinding this down.
Right.
We know this is gonna work eventually. It wasn't. It was like the 50th minute.
And that's really not their game. Their game is not grinding.
No.
Like,
At
and
all.
they had to get this win playing like way outside of their like normal style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's both a credit to Seattle for defending them into that game state, but I think it is a credit to the Galaxy too that they were able to get thrown into a game that's off their usual protocol, and they won it. So you have to give them credit for that. Let's talk about the goal itself because it was the decisive moment in the game. The first thing I will say though is that I think any notion that this is like all Alex Roldan's fault and he ended the season and it was like the most horrific individual error. Like, my thing is just that in a game like this, we talked about it on the preview show. You almost have to bake in that the Galaxy are going to score at least once. The fact that your defense held them to one goal in this game is a good
85 minutes.
For-
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know when. Like, I don't know the last time they were shut out, but it's been. They went more scoreless minutes, I guarantee, in this game than if you add up all the scoreless minutes that they had, like the longest stretches without scoring than in all the other
The
games.
defense played well enough to win this game.
I
And
think the offense even played well enough to win this game. I think they were unlucky.
I think you can say that, but like if you don't score, then
I know I'm going to get shit for it, but it's like there were genuinely multiple chances that were quality where
I mean, they had a couple-
things went maybe not like if Albert hits, like, I mean, Brian was touching on this. He's like, if Albert strikes that ball correctly, it's probably 1-0 Sounders.
And there's an Obed chance.
There's an Obed chance that gets saved.
the Albert
got
one.
blocked,
I think
yeah.
the Albert one was the one.
Yeah.
that was the one.
But it's
So-
like that's always what it was going to be. I think we said it's either going to be this like game of inches where you have to make the most of your one opportunity or two opportunities you're going to get, or it's going to be this goal fest.
yeah,
And it was
And I would have thought the former option
Yeah.
would have suited Seattle winning the game. And I mean, I think it did. It just didn't pan out like that.
Yeah.
The goal itself comes on a giveaway where I think Alex was trying to back pass it, right? He's trying to back pass it, but he like kind of chipped it.
He looked like he was trying to chip it to JP, right?
He was
Yeah.
trying to chip it to JP. It went over JP and right to the one guy that you really, really do not want to give the ball in that spot. Ricky Pooch picks it up. He's got a few guys around him, but I mean that pass he hits is pretty world class. Honestly, he puts that like at a pretty tough angle, right where Jovic is running onto it, and at that point,
And he hits it really well.
He hits it well. That's a good enough striker where you give him that chance. He's usually going to put that away, and like you said, that was Ricky Pooch's like one really, really big play. But I mean, that's a game like this. One moment like that. That's what chalks you.
Right.
So,
And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that Steph should have saved that, but he gets a hand to it. It's a very well struck ball. He's not going to save that very often, but I, at the same time, feel like Steph will probably feel like I could have done a little better on that. And as it was, he almost got enough of it to push it wide, but it goes in, and that's how it goes.
it was exactly. It was like I said, it was just tough because if you told me that Seattle was gonna lose this game, I would be like, I mean, all right, they're the underdog. That makes sense. But like they really they almost had that one. They played it pretty much, I think, exactly
The
how
first
they
half
needed to.
played out almost. ideal, like almost exactly how you would have.
That's what I said at the end of it, other than if they could have scored. But like, as far as neutralizing the Galaxy to the greatest extent that's possible, and giving themselves a chance to win the game late in the game, they did do that. But it's that one mistake. That one mistake can do you in.
You know, I will say, I don't think it was I'm sure it wasn't a penalty, but I would have. I was a little frustrated they did not show a replay of the
handball shout.
No, of the ball that was a free kick that ended up being right outside of the.
We all looked at each other in the box and were like, "How are you going to get a foul on the line?"
Right.
And
I thought that was a weird call because
I'll tell you what I think.
I'll tell you what I think is weird about that call is we all know for an absolute fact that if Drew Fisher thinks that he's inside the box, he does not call a penalty on it. So he's like giving the foul because he knows it's outside the box.
Right.
That's not how it's supposed to work.
Agree.
Like, you're supposed to call it like the same regardless. I don't think it was a penalty, but I think it's weird that he seems to give that foul based on where it took place and not like, I don't know.
I was shocked that the foul was given. I was very confused.
I would have been fine with them not giving it at all.
Same.
But
and Albert does. That was a great look by Albert. He forces a good save from John McCarthy.
Yeah, no, that was another one of those potential swing moments.
Yeah.
Where if they get a goal off of that, and I mean that was a good free kick by Albert.
It gets saved off the post.
It gets saved, but there was that one, and then the one we were talking about where Albert got the it was like the recycle, or like Jordan got the cross from Nuhu.
That was
it
a
off
great.
to Albert. That was.
Play.
I think that was
the
look.
best play.
No, that was the best attacking sequence for sure.
How is your best attacking sequence coming from Nuhu? I don't know. I've seen crazy.
He had the assist in the Houston game.
We were like joking about it, and this is a side tangent.
Yeah.
But he his crossing has legitimately gotten better. I'm not going to say it's good, but like he did have the assist in the last series.
He loves scoring and assisting against Houston.
Yeah,
that's like his thing.
Exactly. But then like his cross on that chance that Albert had was pretty good.
No, that was a good pass.
It was a good cross. So I don't know. He's not Jovan Jones out there, but it was kind of funny in the last like couple games of the season when he would hit these. He got an assist. He's hitting these crosses. We're like, oh, okay. I mean, yeah, like I don't really have much else to say about the goal itself other than that. I don't think like breaking down like whose fault it is really matters, because I just like if you get shut out. If you can score one goal yourself, the fact that you conceded one doesn't lose you the game. So
yeah, the goal that you concede is almost always going to come out of some. I mean, that's the nature of the game, right?
Yeah.
That there's some mistake that gets made somewhere on the field, and I think you probably have 3 or 4 players that can share some level of blame, and it doesn't. I don't think it was an egregious mistake, but like you said, when the margins are 0. Mm-hmm. I think it's easier to be frustrated with the lack of offensive production than it is with this breakdown.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and because just to reinforce that, like it spoke to a theme that we saw with this team quite a lot, like earlier this season and last season. Like the big storyline was this team was playing good on defense, but not generating enough in attack, and the XG merchant thing. So, like this game kind of felt like one of those games in a way. I don't think that indicates that they like regress to that really, because I think, like I said, a conference final will play out like that sometimes, and I think that's
that was the game plan too. I think from Brian, like I don't think that their game plan was to be this all attacking offense.
They definitely did not come in here expecting to open it up and just get into a shootout.
No.
That would be stupid.
That would be stupid. You're going to lose that.
You will lose that
10
against
times
this
out of
team.
10. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you guys how you felt about like because the Galaxy are open to counterattacks. That's like the one thing where you can carve up their defense. And granted,
set pieces.
And set pieces. And granted, their defense has actually been playing way better in the playoffs, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I mean,
they've given up one goal.
But they gave up 4 goals.
Wait.
2 against Minnesota.
Oh, I forgot
And
about the
then-
Minnesota game.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But-
I guess they only gave up 1 goal against Rapids. right?
Okay, regardless.
Whatever.
Back to my point because I'm important here, guys. Come on. I feel like the counterattacking really lacked in this game. I think that there was a lot. I felt like Pedro held the ball a lot. There wasn't as much that Jordan Morris over the top ball.
They
that
seem
can
more
be
worried
effective.
about not getting stretched than they were about getting into the open field.
Yes.
And we saw that repeatedly where if they didn't think they had an obvious opportunity, where they knew they didn't have numbers, they weren't messing around. They just sort of pulled it back and they held the ball, and they were able to wrest. It was pointed out by staffer Christian in the post game that they did play 120 minutes. That they probably had some heavy legs. They are running a little thin on bodies. So I don't know. It's hard to second guess that too much, but yeah, I agree with you. It would have been nice to see them trying to get into the open field a little bit more because they didn't do it a lot. They had maybe 3 or 4 chances where they really were running at Galaxy, and they were oftentimes content to pull it back and wait for their numbers to catch up.
I felt like there was just this period of time between the I don't know if it was like the 50th and 60th or 70th minute where there was just this lull, this big lull, the time where the Galaxy were happy to concede possession because they were a little bit gassed from all of their attacking.
Yeah, I would agree
and
with that.
they were, it's a classic game state thing where you're like, okay, I know it's the 60th minute. We're going to go all out once the 70th minute hit. Just like that mental, I don't know. It happens, just game state stuff. And I felt like the Sounders in a way did not capitalize on that. I think there was some good opportunities in that time, but I felt like when you notice that's happening, you gotta switch that. And I just don't think it happened.
The Sounders needed someone who was willing to take some risks.
Yes.
To just go for it. And
I think Obed tried.
It's a tough balance, though.
it is a tough balance.
It's a tough balance, and
Georgie was definitely, I think, the one. If you're going to point to anyone, who's doing that too.
I agree that it did feel a little too risk averse at times, but I do think there's an element to which that's almost how you have to play it as the road team, just to start with, but then also specifically with this matchup against this team, a track meet is you have to avoid that at all costs. So Seattle did a really good job at avoiding that, but not a good enough job of being opportunistic themselves. And I think Jeremiah, you tweeted the quote, but I think Christian said something to the effect of, "We did enough to not lose, but not enough to win."
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much
No,
it.
I thought that
That's
was
the
a really
perfect
good quote. I thought that it summed it up pretty well. And, look, we're talking about a game they lost by thin margins, and, that was the difference. It's not to say that they was bad. It's not to say that they got I don't think they got out-coached. I think they made a bet that this was their best chance, and it nearly paid off.
No,
but it didn't.
I think if anything, Schmetz was in his bag really this game, but all season. And I guess that's sort of a topic maybe more for the offseason, but I really feel like he coached his ass off this year to get this team as far as he did. Let's as good as the vibes have been in the last half of the season into the playoffs, this roster is kneecapped in a way, just off the top. You have a situation where you've got players like Rui Diaz and Leo Chu on big numbers that you're getting nothing from.
I mean, Nathan as well.
Nathan was hurt all year. De La Vega was hurt all year, never really got going. So when you
we finally saw some glimpses in this postseason.
But overall this year, it was a busted year for him. Yeah. So when you take into account just those 3 things, if you told us before the season that you would get pretty much nothing from De La Vega because of injury. That Rui Diaz would be out of the lineup, like pretty much entirely for the stretch.
Georgie
run of the
Manungu
season.
was going to start your season
is-
finale.
Georgie Manungu is starting playoff games for, or like starting important games for you. Like if you told us all this, we would have been
These
like,
were
"There's
bad
no
signs.
way." Like I don't even see how maybe they make the playoffs.
I would have
but-
blocked you on
and,
Twitter.
Yeah, but they made the West Final and got pretty close to winning it.
Yeah.
But I think the reason that this stings a lot, in spite of all that, is just that it feels like a big missed op, because I really think the winner of this game is MLS Cup champion.
It would have been great to have another MLS Cup at. I mean, that's the thing is
you basically lost. Like you probably lost a trophy on this. Like I don't think the Red Bulls are coming to Seattle and winning.
Well,
They're
and if you
definitely
go
not
back to
coming
the
to LA
last
winning.
time the Sounders lost a conference final, it was in 2014, long time ago. It was also against the Galaxy. It was also a game where the winner got to host MLS Cup.
Yep.
And, the Galaxy did go on to win MLS Cup that year. And I wouldn't say this feels quite the same, because that year the Sounders won the Supporters' Shield.
And I was 14.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Jesus. Okay. Just blow past that.
Right. Are we going to go to jail now?
Yes.
Where
were we?
Yeah,
where did that come
the
from?
2014 Galaxy.
Well, I don't even know
It
where
didn't
my
feel the
point
same.
was.
It didn't feel the same.
But my point was that you can't help but feel like a little deflated, because you had this opportunity that was just sitting there.
Yeah.
And I think that was really what, more than anything, I think that was sort of the overarching sanguine mood, was they knew they had this opportunity to do something special that, and Steph talked a lot about this, about how this is sort of a last ride, not necessarily for this group as a whole, but there invariably are key players who are not going to be back next year. And there is a dynamic. You work with all these guys for a year or more, and you have this dynamic, and it starts to feel like this special group. And I think they really had convinced themselves that it was sort of that they'd gone through the fire, that they'd come out the other end, that they'd gone through. This was not
They'd
an
been
easy.
doubted.
They'd been doubted.
beat down.
They had been down, and they rallied around each other. I think I think Christian is being genuine when he says that this was the best group that he'd had, and I think part of that is because they went through so much together, and that there was real strife, and they found their way through it. And
You went from Raul walking off, basically, right? To
you had
him
players
accepting his
Raul and
role.
Nuhu got suspended for
I forgot
being
about that.
petulant.
Yeah.
And then going to Nuhu comes back, completely different attitude, and genuinely improves as a player after that moment. That was genuinely a turning point moment for him. And then Raul accepting his position as, in a way.
Especially down the road. And I gotta say, there is this image that I tried to capture. The photo is not very good. I'll probably tweet it out anyway. But it's Raul just standing there by himself, watching the players celebrate.
I saw that. Yeah.
The win, and sort of the Sounders teammates going over and congratulating the Galaxy players, and Raul's just standing there, sort of watching. And I do feel it felt like a very this is my last. This is my last.
Yeah.
This is how it ends.
And I want to say there'll be time for retrospectives on that, but I think it's pretty much a certainty at this point that was Raul's last game.
I don't see a path.
There's not really a path to him coming back, and I think when that day comes, he deserves to be recognized as a club legend and I think the best number 9 that's played for the club. All due respect to Obafemi Martins, but you look at the
Will Bruin slander.
But I just think if you look at the trophy haul and the cultural impact on the team that he's had since he's been on the team, the way this season went for him, which was not great, should not overshadow that. And if you look at Seattle's trophy case, he is a big reason it looks like it does.
Well,
he should be recognized and appreciated for that.
And some of his best performances came in the Sounders' biggest games.
Biggest
I think
games.
that's really that's to me the
LAFC
legacy.
19, Champions League, you name it. Like, he scored some of the biggest goals, and he scored a ton of them. So shout out to Raul. And he's definitely a club legend. And I think for more than the on the field stuff, though, like just the presence he was and how he mentored the young players, just a great Sounder.
Before we move on, I do want to take like a half step back and just say, we had talked about, I don't even know how many episodes ago it was, but I dubbed this like the season of almost, and it really was.
It was
like
absolutely.
Like, I mean, I said that not knowing what the outcome of this playoff was going to be, but it really was like 3 steps forward, 3 steps back. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just we were almost there.
I mean, almost is a good way. I mean, they were a result short of. You can start small.
Yeah,
they were a result short of getting the Cascadia Cup.
Yep.
They fall in the U.S. Open Cup semifinals. They fall in the U.S. Open or the Leagues Cup quarterfinals. These were all like these. They did a good job of putting themselves in the position to almost get there, and then they just don't quite do it.
They didn't have the thing or just like the things to get them across the finish line that the teams that they were playing against did. I mean,
right.
Mainly attacking soccer, but
that's the thing though. Like there's been so much talk this year about how behind the 8 ball they are, like an attack compared to LAFC, Columbus, Inter Miami, and this Galaxy team. They made it further than a lot of those teams, and they played this Galaxy team that's got this attack that's got all these resources pumped into it that people have been comparing. They're like, Seattle, why don't they sign Ricky Puig? Why don't they sign Gabriel Peck? Why don't they sign Joey Paints? I get all that, but then you look at how these games in the playoffs actually played out on the field, and Seattle beat LAFC in the playoffs in their own stadium, and they took the Galaxy down to the wire, and the Galaxy only scored 1 goal in the game. So it's like, don't get me wrong, we're going to talk a lot about the things that we want to see with this roster with a specific eye towards more production offensively, because there is no question about it. Like, this team did not score enough goals this year. Did not generate enough on offense consistently enough. And who knows this is Craig Wybes. He told you that, did he not?
Yeah.
What was can you relay that?
Yeah,
quote?
so he had a little press scrum, I guess, yesterday? Time flies.
2 days ago,
No, it was Friday. Oh, it's Sunday.
Sunday.
You're right. Okay, so on Friday, he had a little press scrum. And he was really, I thought, very clear-eyed in his assessment of the team. Like, he was not sitting here going, like, I told you guys we were going to be fine. No, he was
said, I get it.
Exactly. He's like, we didn't score enough goals this year. The margins were thin. If people were upset about it, they're justified in feeling that
I was
way.
upset too. Didn't he say that?
Right. He said, I was, yeah, exactly. I don't disagree with the assessment that we need to be better offensively. And that's the thing we're going to have to do this offseason. We're going to have to go out and sign some offensive players. We heard Steph effectively say that. We heard Brian effectively say that today as well. This is a team that knows that they need these pieces. That doesn't diminish the work that they did, and you can be mad that they didn't have those pieces, but they do understand that they have to get better in this way.
Well, and I do think there's a lens that you can look at this through if you're looking for optimism, well, I do think it's clear that the foundation, at least defensively and with the spine,
this is not a throw the bait. This is not a start over.
You don't
type of
have.
situation.
You just don't have to.
As much as there are Twitter users who want that.
There's a lot of. I think there were useful pieces that developed this year. Yeah. Jackson Reagan was a legitimate Defender of the Year candidate.
He was a finalist. Yeah.
Yep.
Obed Vargas established himself as a rising star in this league. Mm-hmm. Christian Roldan, I think, established himself as a starting quality number 6. I don't think you need to go out and fill that role. Jordan, I think, again, showed that he can play. I don't know that he put to sleep the conversation about what position is best for him, but he showed that he could be productive. Albert Rusnak showed that he could be a productive number 10. Pedro de la Vega, I think, fitness-wise, made real progress this year. Now, that's not enough. I'm not going to sit here and say that that's enough, but he there was progress.
I think in the playoff. I mean,
we're just gonna skip over Paul Rothrock though, real quick. Is that we need you to add Paul Rothrock to that list real quick?
That's a huge thing that happened this year, and that he wasn't available in this game was notable.
It was.
It was actually. I'm going to add something to the agenda check on that note. Let's get to the agenda check. Got
your
few
favorite segment
written down here. Segment. Yes, I got 4 written down now. I'm gonna do the first one first because I just thought of it off that last comment. Yeah. The Seattle would have won this game if Paul Rothrock had played agenda.
I love that.
They didn't have their best player. You're playing the game down your best player.
It's like playing without Ricky Puig.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
If you take Ricky Puig off the Galaxy, you think they're the same squad?
We'll find out because he's apparently injured.
Okay, but all right. Let's get to the ones that I had thought of beforehand. All right, let's one last ride for the anti-Rusnak brigade. Pour one out.
Pour one out.
They were
having a heyday.
Out in full force after the game. Can't say I really get it. I mean, first of all, he was playing injured and had to come off with injury, and I think like what his injury, and that's kind of felt like the moment where it just felt like the fuel tank was running low. You know,
that was definitely one of those things where I was definitely thinking if they managed to get this. I won't know that he would have been ready for next
No,
week.
I don't think he would have been.
That did not seem like a minor.
Also, it would have made like the storylines if they had won this, like with him going out, Georgie starting the game, Ymar being out. People would have been like, the Sounders have pulled off another one of the greatest wins ever. You know, so. Yeah. That's what would have taken, especially after Rusnak went out. We'll do Rusnak Brigade. I love you guys. You know, we don't always agree on everything, but
we do give them attention.
We do give them attention.
You have that.
But we'll get into that because but it's serious. In all seriousness,
there is a big question around him.
His status over whether he comes back as a DP is going to be a storyline. I'll give my take on that right now. I don't want to spend like a lot of time on it, but. I
think we should just dedicate a whole show.
My take on that is if you can scout up and find and convince to come here and sign a player that's pretty much like exactly the profile and skill level of Ricky Puig, then replace Rusnak with that signing. That is not as easy as some people make it out to be. That's actually very difficult. Failing that type of upgrade, I think you bring back the guy that just logged almost 30 goal contributions across all comps and has established himself as one of the 3-4 best set piece takers in the entire league. I don't really see what's crazy about that.
No.
All right.
Agree.
The Georgie should start agenda. So
I was a proliferator of purveyor, something.
Either way, this was a big night for this agenda because he started the Western Conference Final. I thought he had some really awesome moments, honestly. Especially
I really thought he was gonna break down.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, in the first half, especially, he was winning his 1v1s and
easily
created a couple good chances. And I do just really like watching him play because he wins his 1v1s. There was a lot of Seattle wing play over the last year and a half or so where anytime the winger was taking on the defender, they usually did not win that matchup. So it's been cool to see a winger who has that in his bag. But I think you saw the other side of it too in this game, which is he's very raw and not polished yet. And
I think that's exactly what Brian said in the postgame presser,
really?
By the way. So he must listen to Lobbing Scorchers.
I guess, yeah. But I guess that's what I'm saying is as fun as the storyline has been and as much as he's emerged this year and looks like he could be a good player, I don't know.
There's work to be done.
There's work to be done and thinking that he would carry you in this game. Not that was the implication, but he just...
I mean, it was a gamble. It wasn't a gamble, but it was a... let's see what you can do. Kind of you don't go into this game saying
Georgie, take us
to the promised land. Exactly.
I think the fact that Schmetz trusted him enough to start him in this game.
I thought he was the perfect
it was
makeup for this defense though that he was playing against. I mean, and he had I have it written down. Second minute, Obed Vargas run leads to a pass from Georgie that made a play into Albert on the break, and then later a counterattack on Georgie on the wing with lots of space, and then he cut inside. He was looking like he was getting these different looks that I'm not used to seeing from Sounders players and not afraid to attack. So like that is the kind of, and like that's the way he plays. So that's exactly what I wanted to see. And I really thought like if you're going to be playing against a Galaxy defense that is soft and is vulnerable to the counterattack, who else would you want but like legitimately the fastest guy on the team? And a guy who's got pretty good technical ability.
With that, but I'm thinking of it more like when I look at the roster, like going into next season and long term. Having Georgie on the roster is great, but
yeah, he's
I don't know.
Thinking
about it right now, like I think my number one. Well, let's do a wish list episode,
Okay,
like off-season wish list at some point.
I love that.
But like
when we get to go shopping,
like a big, dominant, physically imposing, pacey winger. That's probably number one on my wish list.
you just want Joey Paints.
Oh, I mean, I was going to say Peck, but
Peck
it's
too.
The
Yeah.
Galaxy podcast.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this De La Vega agenda. The De La Vega is a bust agenda that was also out.
Yeah.
In
I think we
full
should have
force.
Jeremiah.
Jeremiah, what
start
are
with this,
what are your De La Vega thoughts?
I think it's hard to get away from the idea that this was a bust of a season. That doesn't make it a bust of a sign. I mean, there's a lot invested in this guy. I think we'll get a much better idea next year. He's clearly gained some fitness. He's stronger. I think that was maybe one thing that he came in, and what I heard repeatedly was that he just was not up to the physical challenges of MLS, and that I don't know. And I think it's worth unpacking and digging into as to like were the Sounders caught off guard by that, because they seemingly scouted this guy a lot.
Yeah.
They should have known what his physical limitations were. But either way, I won't be surprised if he comes in next year and he has a good year. And then if he struggles again next year, then we start talking about, is this guy a bust? I don't really see the larger, like there's not really a lot of value in discussing if a guy is a bust who you signed to be a long-term player after his first year.
I think he had a bad season.
He had a bad season, and I think that you could say that this was even a waste. You could even argue that it was a wasted season.
Yeah.
But I'm not at all close ready. I'm
never gonna call anyone a bust when like injuries are that big a factor.
Right.
Like if he
sure.
had played 2K minutes this year and still had 1 goal, 1 assist, and was out there every week, I'd be like, yeah, the bust narrative has more legs than I would care to acknowledge. But like he really just now in the last like month got to something approaching full fitness. I thought like fitness wise, he looked good tonight, like as good as he had. But like I couldn't tell if that was because of like if how he was playing looked different, or if do you guys notice it's different when you're watching a game with an open box and you can like kind of hear what's going on?
I will say, this is maybe out of the blue, I was very impressed with the whole
Carson,
Dignity Health Sports Park.
DJ Slander? I got a whole DJ Slander show. I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, like the everything
The
about
whole
the
thing,
press.
it was a
the
great
crowd
experience.
it was loud. That was as loud as I have heard a stadium ever. Maybe
Yeah,
like it
they were
was
stoked.
Really
That goal was actually
loud.
insane. Like the crowd reaction was actually like.
Even during the whole game, like it was.
But I mean, like specifically, like just the feeling of like. You could feel how much it meant to every single person in that stadium when they scored. And like, I'm not saying that Seattle doesn't have juice, but like this season, I never felt that one time.
I mean, I will say, so I went to the game last week at LAFC. Also, a really great atmosphere. But this was, I honestly do think this was a better it was louder. It was
Dignity Health Sports agenda check.
Yeah, we might have had to do a Genetech on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. It feels like.
Like I heard a lot of people saying, "Oh, MLS is probably so bummed that the Galaxy." This is not maybe not a dream, but to be having a MLS Cup final in LA, that's like trust
featuring
me,
Marco Royce. And Ricky Puig and Gabriel, like this is an incredible team.
Yeah,
sorry, Galaxy.
Right.
Podcast.
I mean,
Galaxy,
and the Red Bulls are not a
podcast.
bad. I mean, it's a New York. You got LA market versus New York market. Yeah. This is not this.
I think
people
I think
really want MLS to be in the dumps about this matchup. They are not in the dumps.
I think the Galaxy are one of the league's most historically relevant dominant clubs.
And
so.
we've been saying all season they're missing. Anyway, back to the.
I think the
the,
Galaxy are going to destroy the Red Bulls. What were we even?
We were talking about
about
De La Vega. I'll give my take.
Yeah, give your De La Vega take.
Here, fitness wise, I don't even think I think he's made strides, but I still don't even think he's there yet because I saw Brian yelling at him during the match, when he basically kind of gave up on a play and then the Galaxy got on a break. It was eventually stopped, but I could tell Brian was absolutely pissed because he just stopped. He just stopped. He didn't try and track back. That's not the type of player that, Brian is fond of. I'm not saying that's the type of player Pedro de la Vega is, and I'm not saying that he's unfit, but I don't know. I don't want to not be hopeful, but it just this season really just made me feel like
he's got a lot to prove next year.
I
think he's got more to prove next year than any Sounder ever.
Yeah, and that's and he already.
I thought you were going to say on the team currently, but I think you're right.
I think you're right.
I mean, I don't know. It's Dempsey. I guess you could maybe Dempsey was not great his first year here, and I guess they probably ended up playing about the same number of minutes. But there was no doubt that Dempsey was a good player.
Exactly. Yeah. He was so established already as a player that you knew was going to produce.
You just knew he was going to come through.
Yeah, this is it's kind of again, this is maybe a topic for another day, but it's kind of made me think about the wisdom of investing, making young DPs. Putting so much of a centerpiece kind of pressure on a young DP.
I mean, that's the challenge,
you're playing
right?
a dangerous game because those bust at a higher rate, and no matter how convicted you are in the signing, it can still happen. When Ladero came in, he was the Boca's number 10. You already there was less risk involved with that because there's already so much. It wasn't hedging on upside. It was something that was already.
You were buying and I guess that was maybe the challenge was that they were sort of trying to split the difference between buying someone who had a decent resume, but who had this real upside, and the upside we did not see anything close to the upside.
Well, and it also has to do. I mean, we talked about this extensively on a couple. I don't even know how many shows ago. I'm going to use that number again, but. How he had the world on his shoulders in terms of pressure, moved to a new country, immediately gets injured, comes back, isn't fit, isn't playing well, is frustrated with himself. That is a spiral. That is a spiral and a spiral and a spiral. And I think Brian and the whole coaching staff and training staff did such a good job to build his confidence back up, build him back up. But it's that is really hard when, again, like you're saying, he has the most to prove of maybe any young player in the league. Definitely on the Sounders.
And the Sounders. And I go back to this a lot, where I think about the way he carried himself, the way he looked in the season opener, and then early on in that Austin game. He looked confident. He looked ready to go. He was flying all over the field.
Stepped up at LAFC and hit his penalty.
He was hitting passes that were just this guy is going to be great. And then the injuries start to happen, and they happen, and it's he ends up missing, effectively 2 months, and then the road back was slow.
Every time he would come back, he would get hurt again.
Yeah,
right.
That's got to take a mental toll every time.
And he talked about, we talked to him a couple weeks ago, and he sort of talked about how it was. This is a guy who's used to playing 90 minutes, being able to play 90 minutes, and that he wasn't able to do that was taking a toll on its own. And I really don't think until the last couple weeks, or the last couple months, last month of the season, he was feeling anything like himself.
Yeah.
And I think so. It makes it really hard to judge it in a real analytical way, because this is just this offseason is going to be huge for him. I think if he can get his body right, if he comes into preseason next year and he's ready to go, we'll have a much better idea of what he can be.
Pedro, if you want to go and get haircuts together and pod, let's do it. You can pick my haircut.
That's a good offer. All right. let's get to questions. Got a few here, and then maybe a couple more takes, and then wrap it up. Does that sound good?
Let's do it.
All right, what do we got, Noah?
Ladies, gentlemen, NBs, thank you all for your questions. We're going to start out here with Paulie. Paulie says, Alex will get a lot of hate, and to be fair, I tweeted some of it, but it's not really sustainable to rely on making zero mistakes against top teams. Got to be able to score some goals, especially against a team like the Galaxy, which allows chances. De La Vega was a total bust this season.
A lot of people had that. So
maybe we hit on the first part. Yeah.
Well, okay. I mean, I think where you hit it is not sustainable to rely on making zero mistakes against top teams. That's sort of what I was trying to get at earlier with I'm really not interested in the debate over whose fault the goal was. I really think one goal in this game is should have been expected. I thought they were going to get it earlier. So I don't know. For me, it's just it's a retread of the storyline that we talked about ad nauseum back when this team was struggling on offense every week. So you were going to need to score to win this game. That much should be obvious.
Yeah, Jeremiah, thoughts?
I agree.
Nothing. Agree.
I don't get much to add to that.
Agree. Yeah. No, I feel like. I was saying this to Jeremiah when we were walking out of the press box. I was like, I can't even really be mad about this game. I'm not sitting here angrily there were games this season that genuinely made me mad.
Sure.
This was not one of them.
Yeah.
And I definitely don't think that the mistakes that were made that led to a turnover, and then not even just a turnover, because there were turnovers that were stopped. This was just a turnover that was, you have to give credit to LA Galaxy on what is ostensibly, it was a perfect game.
I mean,
they played perfect.
Go watch the pass that Ricky Pooch hits.
It's beautiful.
God damn it.
Galaxy podcast.
I mean, go watch the highlight. It was nice.
Anyway.
Galaxy podcast.
Wicked Wise says, LA Galaxy's path to the cup goes through seeds 7, 6, 4, and 7. The first time a finalist has never faced a top 3 seed in the history of the league. If they win...
Good poll.
Yeah, there we go. Wicked Wise. If they win, there should be an asterisk, or should there be an asterisk by their name in the history books?
Okay, so good pull on the stat.
Great poll on the
yeah,
stat.
that's so good.
There definitely is no asterisk by their playoff run. I mean, I think this game,
I would actually like that as not to face a top 3 seed.
They should put that in the history books.
Yeah,
just to
be petty.
It would be funny.
Petty AF.
But I think that undersells how well they performed all season. But then also, Seattle was a 4 seed, but I think they were the 4 seed by what, a point? So. They're arguably the quality of the top
if this is true, this is a remarkable that there's never been, because there's been lots of 1 seeds that would have. I mean, it's a great poll.
Yeah, no, I mean,
it was an interesting stat. I guess
because the old format, you were invariably going to face a 2-3 kind of, but whatever.
Yeah. Anyway, Phil asks, this playoff run has got a lot out of not much. 1 goal from open play in 180 minutes against Houston, and Sounders players scoring 1 goal in 120 minutes against LAFC. So need to work on finding more goals.
Yeah, so I included that one because that was, I think that encapsulated the overarching sentiment in my mentions after the game. And, we touched on it on the show already, but this is going to be a fun off season because I'm a sicko.
It better be.
I love off season roster movement, and there's going to be stuff going on. There's no way they
there
just
has
run it
to
back.
be.
So
if they run it back, then yes, you can.
Exactly.
You can complain and gripe online.
But everyone who's complaining about the offense, you're right. Not just about this game in particular, but I think everyone knows that the team didn't score enough this year, and really it wasn't dangerous enough.
Yeah. This last one here comes from Sounder Naves. This team played at or above their level for the last 4 months. Showed great commitment, determination, and discipline. Coaching staff earned every dollar they make. Front office let them down.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about Schmetz's Schmetz being in his bag this year, and I think our Coach of the Year take should have got more traction, but the national pundits would never.
No.
But
That Chris Armas
what do you what do you guys think of Nave's last sentiment? Front office let them down.
I think it's important to differentiate two things here. I wrote about this as well. I do think that if there's one thing that Craig Wibes, that's what we call him on this show.
Yes, Wibes.
He deserves credit for is not doing the panic buy. A lot of us, I will admit, I was on the.
You wrote a column about the panic
I wrote a
buy.
column. You just buy somebody, like just spend some money, and I was fully like, no, we're at a point now where you have to buy someone, and I do think in hindsight that decision to not just get a guy probably paid off. Even if you had some marginal, maybe in this game you would have had a marginally better option to bring off the bench. But I think that you would have risked upsetting a very fragile ecosystem in the locker room. And in that way, it paid off. Now, he also admitted that he wasn't able to land most of his top targets. He had a few top targets that he wasn't able to land. You can blame him for shooting too high. But I think really the blame is there was no budget to go out and do anything real. And that's just like when you don't have much money, you sort of have to overshoot what you think you can get because that's the only way you can get a difference maker. And I'll like this Dario Spikic guy was probably the top player that they were closest to signing, and he's looking pretty good right now, playing for Dinamo Zagreb. And that probably would have been he could have been a difference maker, but I don't know. I think what I push back on is the idea that the front office was bad, and all I say is I think the front office hasn't really been allowed to do much because they have not been given a whole lot of budget to do anything with.
Right, and I think the thing people point to is
Pedro de la Vega.
Well, I was going to say like, okay, well, people point out to, okay, well, why was there no money? You didn't move off Rui Diaz soon enough. You
didn't
held
move
on to this guy too long.
I don't
You
think
didn't move later, Chu.
I think these are all things that are probably a little outside of Weibel's. Like he does not have full discretion over what to do with the
Well, and then the other thing is,
But I think that encompasses the full front office of like, I'm generalizing for Naves here just because I'm a defender of our king, but like, I think that like ownership and everything and whatever is involved in getting that money
fair enough
is front office.
Sure, okay, that's fine. I just want to say, I'm just saying, I want to clarify the. Because I think there's a perception
I think that's good to clarify.
That Weibel is just sitting on his hands going like, oh,
yeah.
What do you want me to do?
Well, because no one has any idea day to day what he's doing.
Right.
And
he will even admit, like the most public part of his job, the part that he is going to be judged on for better or for worse, is the roster moves. And if he's not, like he understands that that's part of it. I'm just saying that if you want to have a more nuanced understanding of the situation, you got to understand that it's like
get a job. Is what you're saying. Get a job in the front office. And
right.
learn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
all right.
Thank you for your questions, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for the questions as always, everyone. I think that's it's 1:12 a.m. I think that's about a good place to wrap this up.
Fascinated to see how I look on video here.
I know we're all going to be haggard.
Fading.
Real quick before we vacate. Number one on your off-season wish list for like positionally and like player profile of what you want, like of what you want to see Seattle sign, who you want Seattle sign.
You want me to go first?
Guest of honor.
Number one.
I think it's I'll take any attacking player.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel.
I'm agnostic.
I don't care if it's a 9 or a winger.
I am agnostic about position.
Someone good at soccer.
I just want a player who I think is gonna that can reliably upgrade this offense and is. Yeah, I mean, I just think that's it. I am totally whatever best value you can get for your money. Do that. Like maybe it's a number 9, maybe it's a winger. I don't care.
I'm going with a Benteke style number 9, just a big,
Okay.
like, get in the box, bury his chances, basically Jordan Morris upgraded, and then have Jordan Morris also be able to play off of that type of player. That's what I.
Morris
that's
and Benteke together. Ooh, all right.
That would be sick.
All right, let's call it right there, guys. 1:14 a.m. I gotta get back and crash, and we all gotta get back to Seattle. Thank you all so much for
what a season,
tuning in throughout the season. What a ride it's been.
Now comes the fun part, the postseason.
This is where we make our real.
Exactly.
Like where Sounder at Heart starts to cook.
We're definitely going to be cooking all off season. Anytime there's a roster move or news about the team.
I love that you're still wearing your press credential.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
look at that.
That's a good look.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to keep it on this forever. Well, they have stickers. Isn't this kind of weird?
Yeah. A few teams do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen it
We
before.
better get out of here. It's 1:14 in the
Thank
morning. We're going
you,
crazy.
everyone, for tuning in all season, making the show what it is. We love you all. Couldn't do it
Thanks
without
for having
you.
me, guys.
Thank you,
Yeah, thanks,
J.O.
J.O.
Thanks for having us on Sounder
Where
Heart.
can people find you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm at Jeremiah Oshan. I also have bylines at Sounder at Heart.
Great website.
Good website.
Sounder
I have a
Slash
podcast too. Can I plug the podcast?
Yeah, plug that.
Okay. Nos Audietis. Yeah.
Good
I don't
luck
mind
spelling that.
Yeah, good luck spelling that. That was a genius move on our part.
Time to rebrand.
Yeah.
Lobbing Scorchers 2 is available.
Stay tuned for the off-season content, and definitely keep checking the YouTube. We're getting into this live video streaming world, folks.
You can become a channel member too.
Get Noah's post-game stream up to triple digits, because our first one's double digits. It's embarrassing, but we're gonna see you guys. We're gonna do an MLS Cup show, aren't we?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, we're gonna do an MLS Cup show. We got off-season content coming. But thank you for tuning in all season. We love you all. Till next time, we out.
Peace.